is Jeremiah 29:11-13. And it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for good and not disaster, plans for a future, plans for hope. In those days you pray, I will listen. When you look for me wholeheartedly, you'll find me." Hello, my name is Shaun, and this is my story. So I was raised in a single mom household. My great-grandmother actually was my original mother figure. My parents were pretty young when I was born. My dad's grandmother raised me. People born in the 20s, there's just a special kind of breed of people. So she was an amazing human being. She played the organ in the church, and she had me in church from the time of my earliest memories. Wednesday, Sunday night. As I began to get into my more influential years, as far as teenage years and growing up, I did have a relationship with both my parents, mainly my mother, who would come to be way more involved early on. Throughout my young adulthood, I played a lot of sports. Growing up without a consistent father figure, the most influence came from mentors. Growing up without a consistent father figure left an impression on me, and so I remember a lot of experiences, seeing a lot of my friends have interaction with their fathers that I was always quietly very jealous over, and I always drew close to mentors that I latched onto as father figures, that I was involved in as coaches that I played football for. So having that experience grew this void inside me that always wanted to be filled with a constant approval, from mentorship, but not knowing how much it would influence me when I had the opportunity later on to be a father. So unexpectedly, when I found a woman I want to spend the rest of my life with, was so driven to create a family with this woman that I ended up falling in love with, and her making it clear that she was not interested in marriage and not interested in having any children, because she was a mom already, and it it was funny because I not expecting to meet the woman of my dreams, and then having her tell me that she was convicted about not having any children or marrying or ever marrying me, gave me the drive to try to convince her and change her heart. And when I couldn't, I prayed and I prayed and I prayed to God that He would change her heart so that she would give me a child. And it's funny because God answers prayers in sometimes the strangest scenarios. So 2 years into dating this woman, God answered my prayer. I'm driving to work one day at 7:30 in the morning, and I get a call, and I find out, lo and behold, I have a 14-year-old son. So finding this out, the woman I was involved with, she was very supportive. And about a year into getting to know my son, he asked to come live with us. And so him adding to the equation ended up becoming foundational break in our relationship, because we parented in two different ways, and there was just there's too many factors that interrupted my desire to be a father to my son. So I ended up raising my son during his high school years by myself. I was just completely overjoyed and fulfilled and happy with being involved in my son's life, like I always wanted to have my dad involved in my life early when I was growing up, as far as activities, as far as academics, as far as athletics. So when I met my son, and he was not involved in any of the activities I encouraged him to be involved in, he took to my structure, and he took to my love. And so we had this incredible relationship, and when it came time for him to graduate high school, go off to college, I had very high expectations. And so when he gets to his first year in college, something completely unexpected, expressed rebellion for the first time in a big way. He decided he didn't want to go to college anymore. He decided to really show me where I ended and he began. And so this unexpected life event caused me to, it derailed my identity because I never imagined, as much as I tried and as hard as I worked to be the best, absolute best father I could be, I never imagined that I would fail as a father, and I felt that I failed. So that failure led to me isolating myself, because I didn't want to accept failure, and I didn't want to explain to my circle, my family, my people, my friends, that after everything I had done and all this time I spent, hey, look at me, I'm a great father. The end result was disconnection, and my son deciding to separate from me and not talk to me. And so this unexpected life event caused me to lean on coping mechanisms that I wasn't expecting to lean on, to detach from reality, and to not deal with my failure as a father. And so this very quiet recreational usage of drugs, as far as amphetamines, from a prescription that I had from college from Adderall, became a daily dependency on methamphetamines, to just disconnect from reality and to support my isolation. And so I found myself in total chaos. I lost everything. I lost my vehicle. I lost the place I was staying at. And I isolated myself because I didn't want to share what my condition was with people that cared about me, people that wanted to know what happened to you and your son. After all this exposure, and after all these pictures and photos, and him being on TV for a nonprofit project that we did together, all of a sudden came to an end. And being disconnected, I found myself homeless. There's kind of a cliche when it comes to people hitting bottom, as far as having a moment of clarity. And while I was homeless, I had a moment of clarity. Being downtown at this place called the Haven for Hope, I remember having my last little bag of amphetamines, and I was out, and I was homeless, and I had this tremendous frustration and desperation and devastation that I was overcome with, and I started to weep and I cried. During that moment, I was in a bathroom stall at the Haven for Hope, and I was just falling to pieces emotionally, being cognizant of where I was at, asking myself, how did I get here? I felt this warmth come over me, and so I began to pray. I asked God to help me and to save me, because I realized I was in a position that was beyond my control, in a condition I didn't know which way out of. And so during this time, I realized I wanted to change, but I needed to survive. And so this one place that offered food for people that were homeless, it was this event under the bridge that gave a message on Sundays, but they provided food. So I went to this place, and I wasn't there to hear a message. I was there to get a meal, and I got one. And as my life began to unfold the next few months, I was able to feel God's mercy. A woman from my past that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with reached back out to me and helped me detox. And she's not a believer, but the grace and the mercy and the gratitude and the generosity from her, that couldn't be anything but God. And when she helped me get back on my feet, I had found a good church, amazing group of people called Journey to the Cross, and a buddy of mine that was with me during the chaos, and he had just surfaced all of a sudden and reached out to me, told me he had got his life together. He was a youth pastor in a whole different state, and he's like, call this guy. I really think this might be your first step towards, journey, man, to provide you some answers that you haven't had before. And so fully detoxed and back on my feet, and as far as sobriety and getting back to work, I reached out to this community, became part of this amazing group of people that helped support my new life. And one day after church, a guy named Adam had invited people to come volunteer at this event called the San Antonio Church of Hope, and it was an under the bridge ministry. Having no connection, I decided to volunteer. And when I show up in my own vehicle, because by this time this is about a year and a half later, I had got a job, I had got a vehicle that I bought cash, I had just got a house. So I pull up this event I get off my vehicle, and the moment I see the tables and the setup, God had brought me full circle. A place that I had come to receive, I had returned to serve, and it was an incredible feeling of His love, of the freedom that He had allowed me to experience, and then to come back and not know that He'd been with me the whole time. It was just incredible. And during this season of my life also, there was a death in the family, and my son had showed up, and we were when my grandfather passed away at his funeral, we saw each other for the first time in 2 years, and we reconciled. So I had my son back in my life. I had sobriety. I was back on my feet. And even though I had a vehicle and I had a great job, I had a nice, beautiful house I just got. I'd had those things many, many times before and lost them all. All these things that had tremendous value to me, these material things, they paled in comparison to this relationship that I got to enjoy on a daily basis with God, and just in seeing how His love allowed me to unfold my life in a way to have this fulfillment that I never had, this void that I could never fill, with this approval that I always needed to be accepted, to be loved, to be the best father I could be. And this community that I have for church has just been the way that God has communicated to me that His love is something we just can't comprehend. I'm grateful for it every day. And that's my story.